This is the 4710 we're going to be installing. We've done the unboxing where we've showed you the back of the radio, where we showed you all the features built into it. Now we're going to be showing you the installation. How exciting is that? Along with these pieces, we are going to be using the iData SR module for getting all our data and information into our radio. Along with that, we are going to use the new SRGM5 harness. This is plug and play head unit ready. However, at the time of this filming, the Ken 3 harness, which is what we need for the 4710, is not available yet. Dash kit wise, we'll be using the Pack Audio GMK317 along with their antenna adapter. We have all the pieces that we need. Let's get started. Getting the radio out of the box, we can take a look at the kit we are going to be using. This kit comes with a pocket, so if you're going to do a floating screen radio that needs a single DIN, it has one. These back pieces here are for said pocket that we aren't going to need. They easily just snap off. You don't need any special tools or anything like that. However, there are some spacers located here on the top. I like to use a flush cutter to get those off, and if you're really picky, there are usually some pieces that hang off at the end here. Set those aside for now. Single DIN trim. Stuck in the plastic is a double DIN trim upside down. This bar needs to come out. Take your flush cutters, remove both of those. The double DIN goes in a certain direction. There's little teeth located here on the side, and they have a receiver over here, and they're off center. So make sure when you put this in, you line those up, and then the kit will give it a slight snap so that it'll hang like this. These are designed to where you have the two holes here to be on the top. The top is going to have the wordage on it. These clips that clip in are totally different, so if you try to put it in the wrong way, it won't let you. Snap those into place. And then these have for double DIN and single DIN use. They go in a certain way. Double DIN is pins on top. Those will snap in. Kenwood uses a machine thread screw, not a coarse thread screw. Bag that comes with the kit is gonna have coarse head screws in it. The radio screws that it comes with are not gonna be long enough to screw into these. So if you wanna cross thread it with these, go right ahead. It does use an M5 screw that we stock a longer version of for just this particular installation. Line up your screws. The top screw is a very important screw. It does set up for the mount. When pushing it in, keep your thumb here, because if you push it too hard, it'll pop the ring off. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure everything stays put in place. Bottom screw is going to be the standard screw. You don't have to do anything special. You can use the screws that it comes with, which are on a bag right here. One of the things that people do that's really weird is they're afraid to cut this plastic, and they'll do some really strange things to avoid cutting it. Cut the plastic, don't screw up the radio. Sometimes these screw holes don't line up perfect like you want them to. They need a little bit of grindage. Tighten them up. Check out your gapping on the front. Make sure that it's straight. With this particular radio in this kit, there's like a slight 16th inch here and another one here at the bottom. Pretty close. Better. This has their little scratchy thing on it. That's why this big thing is on. I leave this on until the very end. It's cool that they do it. Now the nice thing is this being a short chassis radio, we have all this extra stuff here, which you can either cut off, or what I like to do is use it for attaching the stuff that doesn't need to be in the vehicle. Gives me something to zip tie it to, so it just kind of keeps it out of the way. What I like to do is just drill a couple holes. One more thing I like to do to this radio is it has this back piece of metal here. Structurally, it's really not necessary. And this gives me a whole bunch of room here to put modules and whatnot into, which I really like to do. This now is all prepped and ready. Let's set this aside and let's take a look at the harness. Box of parts on top. We talked about this in the unboxing. This is, do I use the microphone built into the radio, or do I use the external microphone? This is one of those odd things where, because it has a built-in microphone, some of you are going to be tempted to use it. I will say this: if you're planning on using it and you have an air conditioner vent anywhere around where the microphone is located, in the top left-hand corner right here, on this cool little piece of paper, it tells you that you may get some interference from it. You will get some interference from it. We have done it, we know. I would suggest just running the microphone and save yourself the heartache. Said microphone, GPS antenna, GPS pad, foam for GPS antenna, trim bezel for the radio that we don't need. When using a Maestro module, whichever one it is, it does have to be flashed for the car as well as the radio. So it's one big flash that's going to set this up. I like to do that at this point to get it out of the way. If you haven't already, download the iData desktop app. This does have Bluetooth in it, so you can just do it directly from the device while you're putting it into the car. The reason I don't do that typically is because, for one, it's faster to do it on the laptop, which is the main reason. It's just faster. Launch the app, plug it in. The things you're going to need to know is make, model, and year of the vehicle, as well as the serial number on the top of the radio. Then you're just going to answer the questions that it asks you. The first one is, do you want to flash the module? If for some reason you are using the Bluetooth and it's not working, that's because you need to do a Bluetooth reflash, which is located here on the bottom. As you see, when it comes up and it says embedded device and you scroll up, you'll find that information. Parts that come in the bag for this in the box is a regular USB to USB-C adapter for doing this, the plug to control the steering wheel adapter if you're doing a non-iData radio. That's important. The data connection for if you are doing an iData radio. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with what the SR is, it is a scaled down version of an RR. It doesn't have your tire pressure and your gauges and all of those fun things that you're used to. It still will interact with the vehicle as far as keeping factory settings and allowing you access to those if you do a data connection. However, if you're doing a radio that is not iData and you just want to use this as a standalone module with steering wheel controls, that's what this plug is for. The reason why we're using this is it is a 4710. It's more of a budget-friendly radio, so we went with a more budget-friendly adapter. The first thing it's going to ask us is our year, which in this case is a 2012. It is a Chevy, and it's scrolling down here is a Silverado without factory navigation. It's going to ask you what steering wheel you have in the car. Basically, the difference is, does it have phone icons or not having phone icons, or it has no steering wheel controls at all. So this one does have phone, so we'll select that. Now we have to tell it what radio. On the box, it tells you the model number in case you forgot it. It needs all those numbers, so you need DMX4710s. It's going to ask you for the serial number. Each manufacturer is a little bit different on how they do it. Theirs is located down here where it says serial number. It's going to ask you the firmware. In this case, there's only one. Flash it. This is where it's going to tell you the harness that you need. We need the SGM5, and on here it's going to tell us, oh, if we only had the Kenwood 3, which we don't. If you have a Bose stereo, you may also need the Pad 1. Basically a really simple high level to low level adapter. And then we can decide features in the car that we need, don't have. In this case, advanced camera features. We're going to keep them. If it has it, then we'll get them. Rear seat video retention, none of that. Does not have a factory amplifier, and it has steering wheel controls. Select continue. Now we get to the fun part, which is mapping our steering wheel controls. They do a really good job of mapping what you want. I turn off mute when you hold the volume down. I'm not a fan of that. Scrolling up, we have Siri. That's it. Hit flash, walk away. Let's take a look at the GM5, what comes in the box. The first thing is a speaker for dedicated chime. If you like your factory chime and you like that nice sound that it makes, it's going to allow you to keep a chime that is similar to that, because this is a speaker and that's what creates that sound, because it is no longer going to go through the doors. Next up is the harness itself. Pretty straightforward. This white clip here is for that Pad 1. If you had the Bose system, this would unplug like so, and then you would put it in between here and plug it back in, and that would reduce the volume output of the radio so that it would work with the input of the Bose amplifier. You could also use this as a junction point if you're going to be doing an aftermarket amplifier. The unit has finished its flash. The next thing you're going to do is grab your install guide, the make, model, and year of the vehicle, scroll up. There are going to be some notes that you may want to peruse through, and then we can scroll down to here, and this is going to tell us, because this is an iData radio, all we need is that digital connector. We're not going to be doing the steering wheel controls. It's telling us we need to plug in our chime module and the two plugs that are on the end of this. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward from that out. If the chime is too loud, it does tell us how to adjust it here in the software after the fact, which is kind of cool. We're done with that information. We can set the laptop aside. Module is going to plug in here and here. The chime is going to plug into this just like so. And our data connection goes in like that, and this is all gonna plug into the back of the radio. Now, because it's me and I like to do things the hard way, we're gonna pretty this cable up and make it a little bit more manageable for how I want to do things. Plus, because we are adding in a backup camera, I like to do all of that in this harness here. And you never know, the customer may decide to add a dash camera or an amplifier or anything like that. So we do some prep work to get it ready for that so that we never have to go back into this harness again. First thing I like to do is pull this apart and separate out my speaker wires. Take some JK exterior tape. I like to separate out my speaker wires. That way, if he ever decides to do an amplifier, this will be all set and ready to go for that. And I won't have to cut my other harness. Now, these are very short on here. There's no point in putting tape on that. I like to give about 1.5 inches from the end before I start adding my tape, so we have plenty of flexibility. There's a Y right here where the wires split off. That is gonna be my stop point. I always remove this little tag. I just keep it until the end in case like I have to call tech support and they wanna know what number this is, and then I'll throw it away. There is a short wire in the harness, which is the blue remote turn on wire. But that's okay, because the wires we're going to cut to add in our wires are going to be the constant 12 volts, the ground, the accessory, and the remote. So yellow, black, red, and blue. And now that that is done, I'm going to go back in and tape up this side of the plug. And there again, there is a wide wire, and so I will tape up to that point, stretching the wire out so that it's all equal length, and we're gonna trim these up so they match. Cut about 5 inches of the same 4 colors that we had here. We want to solder in pigtails, because we are adding that backup camera, so we need power for that. That's got to come from somewhere. Before you solder the harness together, make sure to put your shrink wrap on. Alright, so at this point we would tape all of this up, not taping over these. We're going to leave those out of the tape bundle just in case we need to go back into them. This will get taped up and we're going to put some connectors on the end of those. After the final coat of tape, this one is all set and ready to go. What we found out is that a Kenwood plug, this end here, is more or less the same. Comes with the 4710s. We did have to unpin every wire out of this and then repin the harness. I don't recommend it. It's not a lot of fun. And then there was 2 tabs here on the top that we had to remove to make it match. After some time, lots of time, we were able to make a harness that looks like the new Ken 3 that will be coming out shortly. Unless it's already out when you're watching this. That means we can just plug this in just like you're gonna do with yours, and that is what the harness is gonna look like. We've put ends on them, so now we can attach our camera to these two, and then the solder points we did tape up over them, but we used a different type of tape. So this is all exterior, this is interior. So the only tape I should technically have to remove off of this harness if I ever need to get into anything is underneath this. And we're done with this, which means we can hop into the car